So the social web is something that we're all familiar with now. Facebook is now taken off as the second destination on the world. It'd be the fourth largest country in the world if it had a country moniker. So, what is the synaptic web? The synaptic web, if you look at your brain, we used to think that intelligence in the brain was held by the neurons, but it's actually not the neurons, it's the synapses, it's the connection in between. And something we found is that if you exercise your brain, you actually grow the amount of synapses. It's called plasticity. So if you have a brain damage, it actually will rewire the brain to go around that damage. That's plasticity. The web itself is intelligent. It's a living organism. The web is not something that you connect to. It's not something that you dial in, log on. You're always connected, always on, always communicating. And your mobile phone is now a mobile node, right? We all are familiar with Metcalfe's law. The power of a network is the number of nodes squared. We might be familiar with Reed's law, and that's to about a factor of 10. So if you look at the connections in between nodes, these patterns have meaning. What am I talking about here? Transcend. Decision is destiny. You have to evolve. You have to evolve the way you think, the way you code, the way you get your ideas to market. I'm going to say something. I haven't seen a lot of open source people being represented here. So it's almost as if, for me, I had a couple of students try to come interview for my business, and we couldn't really use them because they didn't have the skill sets of real world needs. They're all indoctrinated in Microsoft. They're all indoctrinated in established patterns. And it's almost like the schools are just churning out people to go work for big corporations. So I would say challenge the way that you think. Be wide, have a dispersed set. Don't just be specific into what you're being taught. If you're going to be taught .NET, make sure you learn Ruby, make sure you learn Java, make sure you learn all the scripting languages, and then make sure that you use your mind to decide, hey, what tool set do I use the best? Greatness is a process, so agility. Once you have an idea, you still have to test it with the market and get feedback. It's human-computer interaction. All we have is theory before the market feeds it back to us and gives us results. So excellence is a habit, not a virtue. So look at iterations. Look at something called permanent beta. You're always going to be testing, always going to be testing, always get it into the market. So the synaptic web is push versus pull. You're no longer doing search engine optimization. Web 1.0 was about documents and discrete artifacts, right? The social web said that it's actually a conversation and a sea of conversation. The synaptic web is saying that it's rivers of information that are coming to you, and you have to filter that information. Think about this. How many Twitter followers do you have? How much information are you having? Here's something else. My grandmother always said, be careful who you play with, because you're going to end up acting like those kids you are. And I don't know about you, but I have my own barcada, right? And if one of them's pretty makulit, or if they're pretty mischievous, you don't want to be around them too much when they're drunk. So the people you hang out with are going to affect your life. That's the understanding of the social network, right? The same thing for the information flow that you have. The people that you follow are going to influence you and direct you. This ambient knowledge, ambient web streams. So relationships and ecosystem and intimacy, not branding, advertising, and pushing. You're going to filter the information versus searching for it, and you're going to have natural interfaces. The reason we still have a keyboard in front of us in this computer is because 90% of what we do on the computer is communication. You're either writing something, communicating in social media. That's 90% of all activity on a computer is really communication. That's why the keyboard is remaining for almost 100 years, the interface, even though there's better interfaces. So you have to pay attention to the use. So synaptic web. Desire, human village, and human understanding. So I put World of Warcraft up here because I believe that's the great concept of where the web is going. Everything starts with desire. A desire line is the path I take to get from point A to point B. Human behavior, we're natural human beings, we're social. It's almost evolution and genetics to our makeup. We identify ourselves with the people that we have around us. In Tagalog, the word ako actually means me and you. So linguistic relativity, you have to pay attention to that. Now, World of Warcraft is very interesting because it is a self-perpetuating life that exists outside. While some might think it's a game, it's actually a training ground for flat world business. Sometimes I'll open up work and I have eight chat clients going on at the same time. Clients in San Francisco, a developer in Australia, my team in Mauritius, my mentor in the UK, and my salesman in San Jose, all sometimes at the same time. So you have to understand that the training for doing something in a massive role-playing game with guilds and people all over the world, we're no longer a planet of people that are split by split by geographic or distance. So myth. Carl Jung talked about something called the collective unconsciousness, and that is, I'll short this real quick. Okay, how can a monkey that's never seen a snake know that that snake's dangerous for it? How can we have knowledge that exists even though we've never been taught? So Jung referred to that as the collective unconsciousness, that there's knowledge that exists out somewhere in the ether that somehow is genetic to all human beings and to all organisms. So the net itself is becoming self-aware, it's becoming a living organism, and you have to figure out what that means, what those relationships mean, and the patterns that you have around yourself and in your life. So myth. The other thing you have to look at is the power of myth. Pocahontas, Star Wars, The Little Mermaid, almost every single movie, Avatar, that you see today follows the same story. It's called the hero's myth. Joseph Campbell wrote a book, I believe it was 1949, called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, that talks about myth and common understanding of man. What does this mean for you as a programmer? Well, that's interesting. It means that you're going to have to identify yourself outside the system that you're in. And if you're going to be working for a startup, you also have to have your own hero's myth. Are you going to choose the red pill? Or are you going to choose the blue pill? Are you going to continue to be plugged into the machine? Or are you going to have free will and innovate and create? I'm all for innovation and creation. So, pull systems versus push, filter versus SEO. So, mobile nodes and geolocation. You're looking at the social graph. The social graph is very interesting. We can now map relationships and networks. This kind of information did not exist not even 10 years ago. I remember Visitor, which was done by UC Berkeley, came out, I believe it was 2003. It was in Java, and everybody was so amazed because what they did was they went out and mapped a social network based upon email and conversations and connections. And so you can now find hubs and centers of activity, and you can now do social sciences and grouping just off your Facebook friends and the content and activity that you have there. This is the synaptic web. This is intelligence. This intelligence exists out there. Right now, there's software the NSA has and other government agencies. They can track your phone, and they can map the phone numbers based upon activity. So this information is widely available, and it's really easy. This is open source software. You can download it free for 30 days, and you can upload any data set you want. This is a free application they use in Facebook. So this is the synaptic web. What I'm talking about is that this is intelligence. It's invisible currently, and so what this technology does, this way of understanding, this way of looking at it, is takes invisible knowledge that you don't know, and it makes it visible to yourself and others. So, this is, I had to do this. Jeff Pulver messaged me back, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to capture this for my speech. So this is my tweet deck. This information is coming to me. This is ambient knowledge, and this is the synaptic web. Everything here creates knowledge. So if news is important, you no longer search for the news, you no longer channel search, the news will find you. It'll find you on a variety of devices. It's platform independent. Look at Scovalizer. Another. So why? Desire is the foundation of everything that we do. Human behavior, social, linguistic relativity in the village. The words that you say are the words that you own. So your mother tongue is actually your culture and the way that you look at the world. So you have to understand that other people in the flat world have a different understanding and consciousness than you do. So your language is actually the way that you think and the way that you see the world. That's your psychological map. That's the synaptic web. So, the village. Okay, in the old days, if you were going to go get information, you're going to go get a haircut, right? And in the haircut, you're listening to all the gossip, the chismes, and you're finding out what's going on. You go to the corner butcher, and they remember that your family has an uncle that might be Muslim, so they don't have pork. So the butcher remembers all these relationships and information. So if you want to get information, you want to get chismes, you know who to go to. That's kind of the village concept. The village concept is 150 people or less. It's not Granover. Granover is the strength of weak ties. Dunbar number. It's the Dunbar number. Dunbar is a social scientist that basically said we can only maintain 150 contacts in our social circle. That's considered our village. So that a village is based upon intimacy. So when you're developing, you're creating small teams. Look at teams of 150 or less. But a village is based upon trust. In the old world, and what everybody has done before, you see these big ads on EDSA with men in their boxers, and you wonder, they spent how much money on that? How effective is that? What could you do with $20,000 I don't know, social media campaign, a Facebook application that lets you design your own underwear, like Farmville. So you have to change the way that you look. So social knowledge and cultures, that's again the ambient knowledge. Contextual search is library and authority. So if you look at Aardvark, has anyone here used Aardvark? Aardvark, social search. Has anyone used it? Okay, the most important paper that you've probably read this year was released last Thursday. It's by Aardvark, okay? Aardvark is a natural language social search engine, okay? They copied the Google paper, where it was a paper on large-scale hypertext search. If you think about search is a discrete event, okay? It's an artifact. That's a document mapping, so it finds the contextual relevance to that document based upon your search. But social search, how do you find a hotel that has a jacuzzi, that has a widescreen plasma TV, that has a minibar, that's on a mountain overlooking the ocean? That's a natural language search. But if you type that into Aardvark saying, I'm looking for hotels near mountains in northern Luzon, you'll get an answer in natural language because it goes out and it finds, and 88% of all the queries are found. So what you're saying is there's now a natural search, and the number one adoption of that is you using your mobile phone. Hey, I'm hungry, I'm on West 10th Street, and I want to find some pasta. Who's got the best pesto? And that natural language search is coming back to you. So it's not necessarily technology, you guys, that solves these problems. It's not scripting. It's different ways of looking at information and how we as humans can take that data stream and then put it into something that we can use. So contextual search, library authority, and villages intimacy. So look at tornado technology, tornado development. We have to think more outside the box and quit using old frameworks. Start coming up with your own ideas and your own frameworks. Quit using someone else's mind. Quit standing up here saying, hey, I'm going to use this technology or I'm going to use that platform. Come up with your own. So push versus pull. Now, if you think about pull and push, what I mean by that is this. Call centers are push. If you're dialing 100 people a day and trying to sell them DirecTV, you're interrupting their life, and that's against what the village is. I don't go to your house and knock on your door and say, hey, you want DirecTV? And then you're eating dinner. And so I go, no, is the man in the house there? We do not act on phones the way that we do in real life. So as technology evolves, it regresses into natural human behavior. And so we have to understand that we have to treat each other better online. And if you don't, your reputation goes away. Look at natural human interfaces. We're no longer going to be stuck with keyboards. Look at real-time information based upon geolocation. Live search, looking for something. So God now has a Twitter account. And the Pope is telling all the priests to log. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? By the way, I